I'm sharing with you a technique I call a story timeline. And this technique is beautiful because it really lets people get comfortable at the beginning of the group, and it allows them to share at a very deep level, which I'll demonstrate for you in a moment. But what happens is I give instruction to them ahead of time to bring in pictures that will illustrate certain kinds of things so that they come in prepared, but they have not created anything yet. And then the first 10 minutes of the focus group is spent with them creating this timeline with my guidance, and it becomes a tool for them to share. This timeline that I'm showing you is based on the topic of life stresses, and I have permission to share this with you. I'm going to read from a transcript of the language that this respondent used when she was describing these pictures. So then we moved on to the exhausted phase of my life. So where in some ways some of the isolation of my early life started to fade away, but it was replaced by now I had a child, a wonderful husband and a child in my life. So where isolation became less of a factor and I didn't feel as lonely, now I was completely overwhelmed and exhausted. When my son was born, I was working full-time. I was going to grad school. My husband was in grad school for part of that time. And so we were trying to do absolutely everything. We hadn't figured out yet that, no, indeed, you can't have it all. And if you try and have it all, it'll all fall apart. The analogy I remember from this time in my life is like a toy box. You can only fit so many toys in the toy box and try and close the lid before all the toys break. And it took quite a few broken toys before I figured out I just can't cram it all in. And it's just going to end up a broken, mixed-up life if I try to cram it all in. I didn't have that many arms, which was part of the stress of it all. I desperately wanted all those arms. I needed all those arms, and I didn't have all those arms, which constantly physically felt a lack of enough physical capacity to get it all done. Another part of her stress story was the Dilbert zone. She said, "So I have a picture of living in the Dilbert zone because that's where I feel I'm at. And that's part of the management of this stress, is to, at the same time that we're being treated with callous disregard, I'm starting to treat the job with a lot more callousness because that's what I got to do to survive the stress of it. I can't care as passionately about my work as I used to without having it chop me up into little bits. I met a friend at the Y who works for another large corporation where they've gone through another horrible shift in culture, where this company now lays people off with no thought. And I asked her, how do you survive it? How do you get through this? Truly, seriously, I got to get some survival tools in my box for this." And her answer was, "Well, the first thing that happens is a piece of you dies, and then you stop caring." So while this was a dark topic because people were asked to talk about the stresses in their life, they were able to do so in an authentic way.